Well, as you've explained, now you go and scan, and that's really, really easy. But if you show your ID, your COVID ID under this scheme, and you haven't been vaccinated, they would have to have people effectively, people on the door taking you away. And the real challenge here, well, this is what really irritates
No, they
me.
just
They're
say you
using a very
can't. You
coercive,
wouldn't have to have
they're
any
using a
extra
very
one.
coercive
They,
approach when they should be. The real problem is young people. If you look at the problem about vaccination, young people, for lots of reasons, which I'm happy to explain, haven't been as vaccinated as other people. The proportion of young people, particularly young men, who've been vaccinated is very low. And it looks like the government, in order to tackle that problem, are going to force people to be vaccinated to go to a nightclub. I just think that's the wrong approach. And what Liberal Democrats want is an approach which is sort of incentivizing people, giving them the correct information in the first place, and then making it easier for young people to be vaccinated. And look at what President Biden's doing. He's taking an incentivizing approach. He's urging people to
He's paying
in the states
people.
across the United States to get young people vaccinated by incentivizing them. Should we not look at that? I think we should be looking at role models. I was really pleased when Gareth Southgate went onto YouTube and urged young people to be vaccinated. That's the sort of thing we should be doing, encouraging people with role models. And
no, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with the role model thing. But you surely aren't suggesting that we should be paying people to be vaccinated, are you? Because that's what Biden's doing.
No, I think we should look at that model. Why has he done that? Well, why has Biden done that? At the moment, going down the government's road, we're going to pay for that as well. They've just put out a tender, which they reckon will cost at least £23 million. That means you can add a nought onto that with this government. So they're going to spend millions and millions of pounds on a COVID ID card system, and they could spend that money on incentivizing it.
Well, what do you say?
Personally, as a Liberal, I believe in incentivizing and encouraging people by giving them the correct information, not by coercion.
No, well, I agree with giving them the correct information and getting role models to encourage people to do so. I mean, that has been happening. But surely you can't say to a 20-year-old, we're going to pay you 70 quid to get vaccinated. What do you say to the millions of other 20-year-olds who've already been vaccinated and they haven't been paid £70 to do so? That would be totally unfair.
Well, I want us to look at that. I'm not saying that's the best route, but it's really interesting, is it not, that President Biden thinks that might be a route to go, because presumably the same issues you described happen in the United States. Well, the key thing is, though, if the government go down this coercive model, it's going to affect huge amounts of young people. And I think the challenge of getting young people vaccinated is a real one. What's the best way of doing that? I'm afraid the government had so many mixed messages. They talked about Freedom Day, gave completely the wrong signal. Just when Boris was having to self-isolate, egg on his face or what, totally shambolic, but gave him the wrong message. And this is a thing we've seen time and time again. The reality is, in a public health crisis as we have now, the key thing is for government to give reliable, credible, consistent messaging. That's how you bring people together and persuade them to do things that maybe they were a bit nervous about. And they just haven't done that.